Today, we will review one of the jungle's newest overpowered champions in League of Legends. As of the timing of this video, Wukong has recently received several buffs that make him more and more attractive in the jungle position, with increased damage to monsters and his W ability, Warrior Trickster, allowing him to maneuver over terrain easily in the Rift. Wukong has always been an interesting champion to take into the jungle for his build adaptability and his ganking potential with his invisibility and gap closing ability, Nimbus Strike. Just the addition of his Warrior Trickster allowing him to go over walls should take his ganking potential to another level, because now there are way more options for him. Wukong has a fantastic design that is easy to love and brings players on board to really try him out. In this video, we will go over everything you need to know to try him out in the jungle for yourself. I'll be highlighting some of the most important things to know to get started and finish off with more subtle interactions in his kit and helpful things to consider when piloting this champion on the Rift. In the description below, you'll see a quick rundown of the video sections with the timestamps featured, but I'll list them first so you have an idea of what's coming. First, we will discuss Wukong's champion identity and where he fits in with other champions in the jungle. Then I'll cover his abilities, runes, items, camp clears, matchups, combos, ganking techniques, team fighting, and then finish with the subtleties of the champion. Before continuing the video, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe for more content like this. So let's start off with champion identity. To many players, Wukong is one of the few champions that honestly doesn't get as much credit as it deserves in terms of his overall kit and design. Wukong has been in the game for a decade now and hasn't really changed too much in that time. He really does have a classic design that has so far withstood the test of time quite well. In terms of his newfound jungle identity, Wukong is perhaps actually more comparable to Kha'Zix, in that he is not incredible at anything in the early game, but is not terrible at anything either. Both champions do not have the fastest clears or the best dueling in the early game, and they certainly don't have the best ganking because they don't really have crowd control. Instead, these two champions rely on their damage and gap closure to execute on ganks, so they really need a laner with crowd control to set the gank up for them. Additionally, as you progress in the game and build some items, you can truly pinpoint a specific playstyle you want to lean into and really go hard. The final similarity between these two champions is their plethora of options for mind gaming their opponents. Both can go invisible and juke out enemies, or just buy some time for their cooldowns to come back up. In terms of his mechanics, Wukong actually serves a lot like Xin Zhao. He has a point and click dash that deals damage, a good amount of damage overall though, a basic attack resetting ability, and an ultimate ability that can provide immense value in sticky situations and team fights. The last champion comparison we can make for Wukong is in terms of his build adaptability and carry potential. For this, Wukong is perhaps best compared with Jarvan. While there is currently an optimal build path for both of them, they can truly mix and match their items to adapt to whatever situation they find themselves in. They can build full lethality, full tank, or even as bruisers if they wanted to. Again, there will be better options in each meta and certainly in each game, but the general concepts are congruent with these champions. Let's move on to Wukong's abilities. So starting with Stone Skin, which is his passive, this gives Wukong stacking armor and max health regen while fighting champions and monsters. This means that his clear is much more sustainable because he can keep his passive stacked well throughout his clears, so he'll essentially always be healthy. Since Wukong likes to see how lane states change and immediately act on any opportunities that arise, the last thing Wukong wants is to be weak when approaching a lane looking for a kill. Of course, this also applies with champions, which means he gains a ton of value in extended fights where he gains free stats the longer the fight goes and can really soak up much more damage than he would be able to otherwise. Moving on to his Q, which is Crushing Blow. This is his basic attack ability reset that provides him next basic attack with additional range, bonus damage, and reduces armor actually for a few seconds. As you might expect, now that we are in this durability meta, this only adds more value to Wukong because he can reduce the target's armor so even his allies can take advantage of them. In terms of Wukong's ganks, there's really two important things to keep in mind about Crushing Blow. First, basic attacks and other abilities hitting an enemy lower Crushing Blow's cooldown, so when first engaging on an enemy, you'll want to use it. Of course, this is also a good idea because it will reduce their armor for your follow-up damage. The only reason you may not want to use it right away is if there's a good chance the enemy can escape your gank because of a dash, or a rune like Phase Rush that provides them with slow resistances and a speed boost. By saving Crushing Blow until the end, instead you might be able to squeeze it in as the last bit of damage as they escape your basic attack range. Assuming you need Nimbus Strike and Warrior Trickster already, once the enemy is already outside of Wukong's basic attack range, they are pretty much off scot-free. Now onto his W, which is Warrior Trickster. It's such a fun ability to have in your arsenal. It's incredibly valuable in all situations, both offensively and defensively, and this ability makes Wukong dash in a direction while invisible, and then leaves behind a clone that attacks nearby enemies. This ability is where the mind games for Wukong really come in. This is obviously an option for closing the gap between the bush and the enemy when ganking, but it's also even better when enemies are chasing you and you need to escape or reposition. Wukong's E, Nimbus Strike, is another key ability for him. It allows him and his clones to dash to a targeted enemy and attack enemies near the target. After using this ability, Wukong gains additional attack speed for a short duration. As you can imagine, this is insanely powerful on jungle camps and makes his clear much better than it would otherwise be. Now to the bread and butter, Wukong's ultimate being Cyclone, and this ability causes him to spin in circles for several seconds, knocking up and damaging enemies hit by his staff. In this state, Wukong does gain movement speed over time. This ability not only stacks his passive, but also causes his clone to basically do the same thing to create a really large large area of effect knockup. Furthermore, Wukong's damage over time from this ability also applies stacks to items like Black Cleaver, which can make Wukong essentially deal true damage in a sense. Now let's discuss his current rune and item setups that make him an unstoppable jungler right now. For runes, right now Conqueror is by far the best keystone, with the rest of the precision tree invested in runes like Triumph, Legend Alacrity or Legend Tenacity, and Last Stand or Coup de Grace. The most common secondary tree is Inspiration, with the classic Magical Footwear Cosmic Insight combo for jungle. Overall, the raw damage and healing provided from Conqueror, which is easy to stack on Wukong by the way, and the rest of the precision tree, and the value from not needing to buy boots, and the increased ability haste is basically just the perfect blend for Wukong. In terms of itemization, Ember Knife is the best starting item, and the best mythic item to rush is Divine Sunderer. Occasionally, or if you prefer, you might see some more value out of Stridebreaker, but it's certainly not going to be often, so defaulting to Divine Sunderer at almost every game is perfectly fine. In most games, I would say Wukong should build Plated Steel Cast because he will always be in basic attack range if he wants to be useful, so these boots will provide a lot of value. Of course, against heavy AP and crowd control teams, Merc Treads can be purchased instead, and as for the rest of his core build, it will depend on the exact role you want to serve on your team. If you are the main frontliner, building Death Stand second and Maw of Mortius are great items to really round yourself off. If you have another tank on your team or need to fill more of a bruiser role, then Black Cleaver into Maw or vice versa will be excellent choices. To finish off the build, you'll likely want a GA, or if you haven't already built one, Black Cleaver. Alternatively, Chempunk Chainsword is great for the grievous wounds, Force of Nature being great against heavy AP, and of course Randwinds being helpful against heavy AD with an emphasis on critical strike damage. So now let's discuss Wukong's clearing. Starting with Nimbus Strike being his E, ideally you can start a red buff if it makes sense to path in that direction. If you're getting a leash, you won't need to smite, and you can save it for Krugs if you want to do a full clear in your initial clear. You'll upgrade Crushing Blow at level 2 and essentially use your abilities on cooldown. Make sure to cut your camps to your next one without them losing patience and resetting. If done properly, you can keep your passive stacks from one camp and have them when starting the next camp. Doing so will keep you incredibly healthy throughout your clear. After Krugs, you can head to Raptors and continue to the blue side jungle unless a gank presents itself. You always want to upgrade Nimbus Strike to level 3 unless you are planning to gank a lane before level 4, in which case you will instead level up Warrior Trickster for the added gap closure in ganking. Remember that when you are clearing camps, you want to use your Nimbus Strike to hit multiple targets and use it on cooldown for the attack speed buff that comes from using it. Additionally, using Crushing Blow whenever available will make it easier to bring it back off cooldown because the cooldown lowers with other attacks and ability uses. A helpful tip is to know that when Wukong's clone attacks or uses abilities on enemies, it also helps in reducing Crushing Blow's cooldown. Remember, you don't have to do a full clear, and in fact it's actually not recommended because Wukong isn't the fastest clearer and will likely struggle to get Scuttle Crab at a decent time without priority. It's very important to make the decision to clear in the direction of the lane you want to gank and be ready to change your pathing on a moment's notice when the opportunity presents itself. An important example of this is when mid laners blow summoners early in the lane and become much easier for a champion like Wukong to gank. Now let's talk about some important matchups. The easiest matchups for sure are against tanks, bruisers, and overall weaker junglers that need to farm to scale or are just not the greatest in the meta right now. Honestly, Wukong can even do well against some assassin champions as well because of the recent durability changes in the game, but most matchups are either skill-based, knowledge-based, or when the enemy jungler just makes better decisions. The biggest counters to Wukong overall are champions like Talia, Mordekaiser, Evelynn, Lilia. Wukong doesn't really fare too well against these AP matchups, but these champions are especially challenging for a few reasons. The gap closure that makes Wukong powerful is easily countered with things like Talia E. Mordekaiser is difficult to kill and can shut down Wukong's powerful team fighting with his ultimate. With Evelynn and Lilia on the other hand, they can mark Wukong, which makes him distinguishable from his clone, which can be problematic when trying to escape. All of these champions can scale quite well and become absolutely menacing for teams to deal with, and Wukong isn't the best option to deal with them when that happens. Let's quickly touch on Wukong's ganking methodology. With Wukong's recent Warrior Trickster changes, he has more ganking options. Of course, he can W to get out of the bush and sneak up on his enemies like he always has been able to. Now he can do this over terrain as well, which makes maneuvering around smaller walls around the tri-bushes much easier and helps him avoid vision. There are so many options with Wukong ganks now that it just amplifies his mind gaming prowess and helps him get into much better positions that are less predictable for enemies. Touching on teamfighting, Wukong has plenty of teamfighting options that make him such a powerful pick. You can look for a flank for a massive engage onto the enemy, or to set up for a wombo combo, or he can simply engage head-on with his team and act as a main frontliner. The added practicality that Wukong offers is that he can disengage relatively effectively with his Warrior Trickster acting as a facade and his Cyclone, which can peel for carries if needed. Throughout this video, I've referenced Wukong's ability to play games with his opponent's minds. This is all because of his cloning power and invisibility. Wukong is unique in that when he goes invisible, he leaves a clone behind that acts how Wukong would normally. This makes it virtually impossible to tell if Wukong has used his Warrior Trickster or not. You will be amazed at how easy it is to fool enemies when you stop inputting movement commands. Especially when they're chasing you, they will immediately think you have gone invisible and that they are looking at your clone, when it's just really you all along. By using this tactic defensively, even if they realize it is you, you can start inputting movement commands and then stop again. They will be forced to make the same decision again whether it is you or not, which can cause a real headache to deal with. Of course, you'll want to mix it up to remain unpredictable and use your warrior trickster occasionally to truly keep your enemies on their toes. Overall, Wukong is an amazing champion by design and through his in-game kit. He really isn't a complicated champion overall, so it's not overwhelming at all to start playing him. I'd recommend trying him out in a game or two of normals before taking him into solo queue, but it really doesn't take more than that to get the overall idea. If you can manage to get a grasp for his playstyle and the benefit of using his adaptive and slippery kit to the best of its ability, Wukong can be an incredible pick. Like always, I hope this guide has helped you out, and I will see you in the next one. Stay fresh.